Good morning, everybody. Hi. My name is Karen Kong. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Ottawa, Canada, and welcome to my This or That Thursday. So every week I try to post 2 cards in my group, and I ask my crafting community, that's you, to choose a card for me to make live on Thursday mornings around 9 a.m. And this week we are making this card. Okay, so for Valentine's, like, I am not a really big hearts and flowers type of gal. I don't usually buy those kinds of stamp sets, so I am really glad that my friend Sandra convinced me to buy. She didn't have to convince me. She persuaded me with all the amazing posts that are out there that this stamp set would be amazing. And I was like thinking about it already, but now I'm really glad that I've got it because it came in really handy for Valentine's Day. Because again, I don't have like lots of stamp sets with hearts and stuff like that, so I found this one came in perfect for Valentine's Day for me. Good morning, Tara. Thanks for joining. Yeah, so it made like a different kind of Valentine's Day card, not the sweet syrupy type, the fun kind. So that's what we're going with today. And let me just get my computer set up so I can see all your comments while I'm crafting. Just give me a second. And if you're joining in or watching the replay after the fact, I would love it if you could say hi, comment, tell me where you're watching from. It's always nice to see who's joining in, and if you're here live, I love to chat with you. So if you've got questions or you've got comments, please do join in and talk with me because it's always more fun that way. Okay, so I've got my computer up and running. Let me just switch over my camera to my desktop and you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so close your eyes while I move things over. Oh, hi Lindine, it's nice to see you from Nova Scotia. Wonderful. Okay, close your eyes. I'm just going to switch over to my desktop. Sorry about that. Okay, it was really strange for a little while when I'd switch over to going live. Sometimes my camera would be like completely zoomed out, so then you'd see like my entire messy desktop, the floor, everything, and it was really bizarre. Seems to be behaving again, which is good. All right, sorry, I think oh, that looks a little bit crooked. Let me just try and fix that. Hopefully I'm turning it the right way and not, oh, I think I made it worse. Okay, just a second. Okay, that looks better. All right. So yeah, this week we are using Taco Fiesta. It's a very simple stamp set. It doesn't have any dies that come with it, so you have to like fussy cut everything out. But really, the shapes are really quite simple, and it's been pretty easy cutting everything out, and lots of fun. So, and I like the you know, the play on words and that you put little faces on food. So I think it's really fun. So this is the card that I made for my husband, okay? And I enjoy like funny cards when I get them from me, but, and here's what my husband gave me. See, we like the funny cards. So this is funny. I love these little scream-filled ones. Ah, dinosaurs on Valentine's Day. So yes. All right, so this is a simple card. Like I said, there's like no cut and emboss machine involved in this one. It's just stamping and heat embossing. So that's the fanciest thing we have to do on this card. So let's get started. Okay, so it's just a white card base. This is real red, just a matte. And then this is thick basic white. So when I do, we're going to do some blends coloring today. And when I do coloring with the alcohol markers, I like to use the thick basic white because it absorbs a little bit more of the ink. You have a little bit more, I don't know what to say. Like it just absorbs better. And when I'm blending, it just works nicer with the blends markers. So I always save my thick basic white for coloring. Okay, so let's get some stuff out of the way and then we can get started on making the card. All right, There's never enough room on my craft table. I don't know about you ladies. It doesn't matter how big it is. You know what? I could use more room. I could definitely use more room, but I think even if I had more room, I'd probably still not have enough room. You know what I mean? All right. Well, I'll move these out of the way too. Okay, so I have here my trimmer. And what I'm going to do is take a 8.5 and 11 by 11 piece of white cardstock, and we're going to cut that in half to make our card base. Now, I did pull it out, and I don't see it. Okay, that is half the battle of crafting, is finding where you put the stuff that you thought you took out or put down somewhere, and where did it go? All right, I'm just grabbing a piece of basic white. Here we go. All right, 8.5 by 11. And I'm just going to slice it in half at 5.5 inches. Okay, so I'm using the ruler along the top here to measure, right? Because it's all here on the trimmer. 5.5 inches, that's half. I'm gonna use the cutting blade. Okay, so this one here is a scoring blade, which we'll use next. This is the cutting blade. 5.5 inches. I'm going to turn it now and score it again at the halfway mark, which is 4.25. Okay, that'll help me get a nice crisp fold. Okay, so that is my card base. The next thing I'm going to cut is the mat here. This is real red. Okay, so I'm going to take another 8.5 by 11, but this one is, I've cut this one 1/4 of an inch shorter on all sides so that you get an 1/8 of an inch border when you mat it on the card base. Okay, so this one is going to be 5.25 by 4. So I'm going to cut this at 5.25. And then by 4 inches. Okay, so that is our mat. All right, now for the thick basic white, which is what I used for this mat and for coloring on, it is 3 by 4, I believe. This is 4 inches and this is 3. Now, if you're watching for the first time, don't worry about writing down all the measurements. I will post them in the description of the live after I'm done, and then you can always go back and check it there. So just sit back and enjoy right now. Okay, so 3 by 4 is my basic white, and okay, so this is a leftover piece of basic white that I have. Let me just check what the sizes are here. I try to cut it so that I don't waste too much. Try to reduce waste as much as possible. So that's 6 inches this way. So I'm going to cut it 3 inches here. Oops. Okay. Just making sure it's lined up against the guides. 3 by 4. All right. So that is my thick basic white that's cut. Okay. Now I have a thing about the little raised edges, and I always know when I cut along the edge, there's a tiny bit of a raised edge, and I like to just smooth it down, and it just makes it look more finished. Okay, same thing for these. I don't notice it as much on this, but we'll just run it over quickly, and it just gives your edges a more finished look. I just like to do that for my cards. Okay, so let me glue this down before I lose it somewhere. So let's get some glue out. And I forget, is this the front or the back? This is the back, okay. And I'm still using up this glue that like suffered some kind of weird transformation. They think, Stampin' Up! Thinks it might have froze during delivery or transport, and so it comes out like toothpaste. And so I'm trying to use up as much as I can until it comes to the point that I can't squeeze out anymore. but in the meantime, I'm squeezing quite hard to get it out. And when I go to use like the regular glue, like the stuff that behaves properly, I always forget that I'm like, I don't need to be so like strong. And I get like this huge glob. So I thought for my live this morning, I'll just stick to using this toothpaste texture or toothpaste consistency glue until I'm done it. And then, so I won't accidentally like create a big puddle during a live. All right. Okay. Oh, I didn't burnish my fold. Let me do that too. Looking for my bone folder. Fold it in half. Should have done that first. That's okay. This is reality crafting. All right. That's fine. Okay, so there is the basic card already done. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my basic white, thick basic white, and we're going to take that little tiny chili pepper, and we're going to stamp it all over, right? Just put it all over. So I normally stamp a lot with my Stamparatus, and you know, I've almost forgotten like how much pressure to apply when I'm stamping, and I have to be careful because if I press too hard, these fine lines become kind of blurred, kind of thick. So you know, it was an exercise for me to restrain myself and press firmly, but not too hard. Oh, Tara asked if I ever tried opening the large end. Yes, I did try opening the large end, and it seemed to come out a little easier, but I'm not entirely sure if that, I don't know. It didn't happen like right away. So yeah, maybe you know what? I'll leave it open and maybe we'll try that right now. I'll just leave it open and maybe later we'll see if it, when I have to use it again, if it works out better. Actually, I don't know if I have any more gluing. Sorry, Tara. Actually, there is no more gluing. These are dimensionals. That's dimensionals. Yeah, I won't need this. But yeah, I don't know if it was my imagination because at first it didn't seem to do anything. But okay, so let's take out my black Memento ink pad. So when you're doing blends coloring, you're going to need to stamp in black Memento ink. I thought you would have to use Stays-On ink, but you don't actually need the Stays-On. You just need to use the black Memento, and that will prevent it, the coloring from making your lines blur. But you do have to make sure that the black is dry. So that was my mistake when I've done blends used blends markers before, and then I was like wondering why the black was bleeding, but it was because I hadn't really fully let it dry. So what I've been doing lately is taking my heat gun. If I want to do the coloring right away, I will just take my heat gun and quickly, you know, run it on the paper and just make sure it's all dried up. So that's what I'll do at the end before I start coloring it in. Okay, so here I'm just see like that one. I don't know why that one blurred right there. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and start stamping. So I'm just going to stamp. I always start from one side and I work my way over. I don't do it like outside in or inside out. I like to fill it from one side over because then I can control, sort of try to control like how far apart there's space, because I don't want to get into a spot where I have too much and then but there's like too much of a gap, you know. Anyway, so I just find it works when I do it from one side to the other, or one direction at least, right? So I'm just going to start, and I'm going to press firmly but not too hard. Okay, so I'm just going to do some, I'm going to turn it as I go so that I get, you know, an interesting pattern. So tell me, do you send out any Valentine's cards yourselves? Like, I don't give any myself anymore to people outside my family, except for, well, this year, I mean, like, because of the pandemic, the kids haven't been really giving out Valentine's at school. So we used to make bookmarks or stuff like that, and maybe give a candy or something, but this year we didn't do anything, and it seems like it's starting to start back up again, but only a few kids gave out candies. Oh, okay, Tara says she does. Anybody else send out Valentines to friends or family or neighbors? It was never a huge celebration for me personally. So I know that Paper Pumpkin, they usually have like Valentine's treats and packaging and stuff like that, so that's fun. I don't personally give them out that much, so I don't usually get that one. Okay, so I'm just continuing to space them out evenly and moving across the paper. So this card was cased from another demonstrator, Yvonne Spickmans. I love her work. She's in the Netherlands, I believe. And she always makes amazing cards. And this one was really clean and simple. Just so easy to make. Like it's just really easy. Oh, I gotta turn this a little bit more. I'm trying to vary it a little bit. Yeah, so they're not all facing the same direction. Here we go. Almost done. So just a few more. There. Cute. These little peppers, so cute. All right, let me put that away. And I'm now going to take my, actually, you know what? I'm going to do the big peppers. Let me just find that piece of basic white. Okay, so for this, I have to use the Stamparatus. So that is the thing I'm going to show you today, is the mirroring technique. So I've seen it done before, but I had never actually tried it myself until I made this card. Isn't that amazing? Like, I don't know why I put it off so long. So to do the mirroring technique, you're going to need a Stamparatus because you need to be able to stamp exactly in the same spot, and you need the silicone mat. Okay, so the silicone mat is pretty handy, not just for mirroring. I use it when I'm doing like gluing of little tiny parts and I know that the glue might escape and get out onto the table or whatever. When it's on the silicone mat, it's easy to wipe off, and also if it dries on the silicone mat, you can just rub it away and it just comes right off. So it's not just for mirroring. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I need the big chili pepper. Okay, so I'm going to do the chili pepper first, and then I will color it in. Oh, there it is, right in front of me. Yes, so I'll stamp the outline of the chili pepper, and then I will color it in, and then we'll put the face on top, so I don't have to color over top of the face. Okay. So, let's see, got to turn this over. I'm going to put it right here. Well, let's see. Depends where I'm going to put my paper. It's just easier to line up along the top here, right? Because what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to stamp the ink onto the silicone mat. Then I'm going to place my paper on top, and then I'm going to press it down again with the stamp to transfer the image from the silicone to the back side of the paper, and that's how you're going to get the mirror image of this little guy. Okay, so all right, so we'll work with putting it here. I want it on the edge of this paper so I don't waste. Okay, so I'm going to put it, let me do this. Okay, so I'm going to line it up with the corners here, and that way I'll be able to line it up afterwards, and I'll know that it's right in the corner there. Okay, All right, so I had to do this several times. I tried out this technique several times before I got a chili pepper that I was happy with, because what happens is that when it transfers from the back, it seems to be a little bit lighter than the original, like a full-on black. So what I was doing, I would actually ink the silicone twice, but if I press too hard, I find that it blurs, like the ink kind of because it's not being absorbed, it actually gets pushed to the side, and then you get kind of a blurrier line. So I have to be careful if I want to ink twice to do it lightly so that I don't blur the line. So let's see if I can do it today. All right, so I'm going to ink it up, and I'm just going to place it down lightly. I'm not going to press super hard. I'm just going to pat it very, very gently. Okay, see how nice and thin the line is right there? Okay, so I'm going to ink it up again. And again, I'm just going to let it apply the ink very lightly. I'm not pressing hard at all. I think the tip looks a little bit light. Okay, so I'm not mushing it. Oh, I think it did kind of, I can tell already that the line looks a little bit thicker along the top. That's okay. Let's go with it. All right, so you have to be careful when you're laying down your paper that you don't move the ink, right? By like sliding it along. So I'm just going to take the stamp and I'm going to press down again. Okay. All right, let's see how it turned out. Not too bad. See? I don't know if you can see this, but the line is a little thicker than the original stamp, but I think that turned out fairly well. I'm okay with that. Okay, so I'm gonna have to wipe that away. So that's the leftover ink there, and I'm gonna make the stamp of the original pepper. So that way I have a mirrored image and my little peppers can face each other. So when Yvonne first did her card, the way she did her card is that she had two chili peppers facing the same way, but I really thought for Valentine's Day I could sort of make it a heart shape by making two facing each other. So that's what prompted me to do the mirroring technique. So I can take this away now, and I'm just going to stamp on the other side. Sorry. Yeah. I wonder if that will fit. Let's just check. Yes, it will. Perfect. All right, so I'm just going to stamp the original image, and then we can color them in. All right, here we go. And I'm going to do it twice so that I can get a nice black edge. There we go. Okay, see, now I have two opposite facing chilies. All right, so let me just close up my ink pad and clean off the stamp so I don't ink myself by accident. Oh, something just dropped. Okay, so before I start coloring, I'm just going to take my heat gun and I'm just going to quickly blow them dry just to make sure that I reduce any chance of bleeding. Okay, just a second. Hopefully when I start the heat gun it won't be too noisy. Just a second, okay? Alright, so hopefully that dried it up. And I will start with this piece because it's had longer to dry. And I am using Real Red blends markers and Old Olive. Alright, so I'm just taking off my glasses so I can do the coloring. And I don't know about you, but even with like progressives, like I find it hard to color with my glasses on. So with the little tips of the chili peppers, I'm just going to use one color that you won't be able to see much shading when it's so tiny. So I'm just going to use the fine tip. You know what? I almost think the other tip is actually finer. It's got a very, very fine tip on it. I'm tempted to use it, but I don't have as much control because it's a bendier tip. I'm just going to color the tips of these in. Something else I wanted to try for Valentine's Day when I have more time is to have a Galentine's event, you know, something just for the ladies, but haven't had the chance to do that yet because just too busy. I don't know about you, but my kids have been catching a lot of viruses lately, just like stomach flus. I think norovirus is supposed to be going around, so they've caught, I think both of them had it, and now my son is homesick again with a fever and a cough and headache, and I don't know, so he's in his room. Okay, so for the little peppers, I think we can add a little bit of shading. So when you're blending with blends markers, I know that it's better when you do it when it's wet. So I'm not going to do all the dark for every single pepper and then go back, because by then it'll all have dried. So it's better to actually do it right away. So what I'm going to do is I'll switch back and forth between the dark and the light. So I like to color the shading with the dark and then quickly add in the light of that color to blend it in. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so let's start with the dark. I'm just double checking. Alright, so I'm just going to put a little bit of shading along the top and along the bottom of the pepper. Okay, then I'll take the light and I'll quickly color over it. Hopefully my head is not in the way here. There we go. And do the same for every pepper. And it's actually kind of relaxing, except when you're doing it live, perhaps, because I don't want to go outside the lines. And I try not to go over the edges too much. Okay, here we go. I see a comment, but I don't have my glasses on to actually take a moment to stop. Oh, hello, Marilyn from Georgia. Wow, that's amazing. What's the weather like in Georgia? We're having a really, really mild winter here in Ottawa. It's like so mild. The Rideau Canal, which is the longest skating rink in the world, hasn't even opened, and I really don't think it's going to make it this year. Oops, I think I just used the light one by accident. Here we go. We'll add that dark in here. There we go. Tara, I can see you added a comment, but I need a second to put my glasses on to see it. Oh, yes, you need a red for sure for the taco class, for sure. You need some kind of red. Like even sweet sorbet would work. just for this card, I thought that I would use the real red because I didn't have, oh, the one I was planning to use was Poppy Red. Poppy Parade, sorry. Poppy Parade, and I had ordered it, but it hadn't arrived yet, so I decided I would go ahead with real red because that's what I had. And actually, I think I would like it with the real red. But any red. Now, if I had been planning ahead properly, I would have had a already completed card base with the coloring done. But I didn't prepare that ahead of time, so it's not going to take too long, I hope. Cherry Cobbler. That's a little darker, but you know, just see how it looks with the other colors you're planning to use it with. Whatever combination works for you. If it looks good with, you can try the Cherry Cobbler with like the greens that you have and see what color works, what color combination looks good with it. I just wanted a really bright red for the Taco Fiesta class because I just felt it would be more party-like. But you know, there's nothing to say that you can't use a darker red and still make some great fun cards. I always Google for Stampin' Up! Color combinations because there's lots of demonstrators who actually, there's Brian, I think, Brian King, who does like color combinations, suggested color combinations that look good together. There's quite a few of them, so that you know, you can look for ideas on what colors look good together, or you can just try it out with what you have. So yeah, Chair's asking if I could do all the dark and then the light. So what I was saying earlier was, and it was a tip that I refreshed my memory on when somebody else asked me earlier last week about blends markers and how to use them, is that it works best, the blending part works best when the ink is still kind of wet. So if I did all the dark first, they would all dry before I get back to them, right? So that's why I'm doing it quickly, switching back and forth. Oops, I went outside the line there. Because then it's not quite dry yet, and it blends easier. Right, because if you have to color more to get the blending to work, because you have to re-moisten it, then you run the risk of bleeding, I think. I think that's where I ran into issues, is that when it had dried, I'd have to run the marker over it a bit more time, a few more times, and then you'd get excess ink and then bleeding. And plus the memento ink hadn't quite dried. So those are all things that I found worked better, because you know, you don't want it to bleed. It doesn't look as nice, right? And I try not to go over the black ink too much if I can help it. But in some cases, you know, you do have stamps that where there's detail inside that you have to go over when you're coloring in. So that's why I avoided putting the face on first on these big chili peppers. I'm going to stamp it on afterwards. I think it's working quite well. Like, I don't see lines from where the dark stops and the light starts. so they're blended in nicely. It was good to refresh my my memory on all the tips that they gave, because Stampin' Up! Has a video, and several other demonstrators have posted videos about how to do coloring. And it was a good refresher for me when I was telling somebody else about how to use the blends markers, because I had watched them a while ago, but then I'd kind of forgotten, and it was a good, just good to remind myself. Yay! All right, so that one's done. Cute. There we go. There's my background piece. All right, so here is the big chili peppers, and for this I will use the dark old olive to do the shading on the stem. So it's really subtle, right? It's really not very obvious, but then when you look at it, you realize, yeah, there is some shading there. Okay, so I'm going to do the dark first. Okay, and I'll quickly do the light on top. Let's do this on this side too. All right, and then again we'll do the dark for the shading. So I'm going to add darker shading along the top and then maybe around the side here. So they recommended doing little circles so you don't get like harsher lines if you just go straight down like that. So they recommended doing this, and that's what I'm gonna try to remember to do. And then the key, of course, is getting back in there with the blending before it dries too much. Oops, there we go. All right, that's one. And we'll do the other one. Oh, I went down the back side. There we go. I'll make it matching. Okay. So if you find that the lines aren't disappearing, you just have to color a little bit more, and then you'll start seeing the blending happening. Because when I first used these, I was like, I still see a line there, but you have to actually work it in a little bit, which is why the thick paper is better, because if you have to work it in a little bit, then you're going to need a little bit more absorption or it will start bleeding. And sometimes the color is even a little bit different. Like I think I did a side-by-side comparison with the regular white paper and the thick, and just for my own benefit, and there is a difference. So you can try it out if you like. See, this one turned out a little bit darker on top. That's okay. All right, so I'm gonna let that dry before I stamp on the faces. Okay, so I'm just going to attach this while I give that a few more seconds to dry. So I'm just going to use dimensionals to adhere it about an inch from the top, 3/4 of an inch. Okay, let's get my dimensionals out. Actually, you know what? I have edge pieces, so if you have like used all your dimensionals in the middle, don't forget to use the edges, okay? Oh, see you later, Tara. Thanks for watching. So use the edge of your dimensionals, don't waste it, and you can cut it or you can rip it. This one's a little bit thicker, so I, have to cut this one. But normally I can just rip it off if it's the thinner edge. Okay. So I'm just cutting off sections of it and placing it. Let's put this one here. I'll take another corner piece and put it in another corner. Let's take that one. Okay. Now before I stick it down, I have to remember that I actually have a piece of black string that I wrapped around it and I tied it in a bow. So this is from the Basic Twine Essential, Baker's Twine Essentials pack. And it's just basic black. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of guesstimate how much I need here. And actually what I do like to do is I prefer to tie it while it's still on the spool. So let me take this. So that way when it's on the spool I know approximately how much I need to use. And I can adjust it without having to cut. I can just pull it apart and tie it again if it's not the right length. Okay, I know this is upside down, so hopefully it'll be fine. Okay, so like that. Okay. So yeah, this looks to be about the right length there. I could probably make that, I'll just trim that shorter afterwards. So let's just trim this. Okay, I'm just trying to arrange it because just seeing if I need to retie this at all. Sometimes it won't sit properly. Yeah. There we go. I think that's okay. All right, so I'm not going to glue it down on the back, just so that I can pull it sideways if I need to after it's adhered to the paper, right? Because I didn't put any adhesive here and it's not sitting on any foam. So let's go ahead and do that. So yeah, it's really mild here in Ottawa. There's very warm temperatures for this time of year, and I don't think this outdoor skating rinks are able to run because the ice is not freezing. It's just not cold enough. I think this is going to be the first time in like 50 years or something ridiculous that the canal will not open for skating. Just too bad. I'm not a real winter person, but the canal is a fun part of Winterlude here and the winter activities that go on, and I have to admit, I only go because I know I can get a beaver tail. If you've never had a beaver tail, it's like a fried piece of dough. I think I've heard them called moose ears. What else are they? They've got all other names. But anyways, it's a flat piece of fried dough, and they roll it in like sugar and cinnamon, and they've got all sorts of flavors. You can put Nutella on it. So that is the fun part for me. Okay, so let's get these stamped, and I also still need to stamp and emboss that bit. I thought this was going to be a really fast card, but I think the coloring was what did me in. Took me a little bit longer than I thought it would. Okay, so actually, you know what? I should stamp these first before I cut them out. It'll be easier than trying to keep a little tiny piece in place while I stamp. Okay, so I'm going to put this away. Let's get out the little happy faces. I like the little guy who winks. But I'm going to use the happy face for this one, I think. Okay, so let's line him up. Actually, you know what? If I line it up right against the top again, I won't have to move my stamp after. I can just do it twice. I just have to adjust my paper. There we go. Okay. See, I like using the Stamparatus for tiny little faces like this because I always end up pressing too hard, and oh, this is not going to line up the same way. I was mistaken. But anyways, I find that with the Stamparatus, I don't press as hard, and I get like the eyes to come out nice and even instead of one eye being bigger or the smile being really fat. I don't know. It just turns out nicer. Let me just see if I can line it up this way. It's going to be around here. I just need to get my magnet. Okay. Let me just double check. Oh, I'm going to need to pull it over just a little bit more. Too much. And I need to adjust the angle. See what I mean about reality crafting? This is not what I planned. Okay, let's just take it off and put it on. That was probably going to be faster. Okay. There we go. Oh, I don't know what happened there. Why is his face smudged? I don't understand why that looks like a little kiss or something. I don't know what's going on there. Anyways, we'll leave it for now. I don't know what I'm going to do with that one, but let's go ahead and cut them out. I'll have to come up with something creative after that. So now I'm just going to cut it out. I'm going to actually trim off one side because it's easier to cut when you don't have a big piece of paper hanging off the side. So I'm just going to trim it down so that I don't have so much to maneuver around while I'm trimming. Okay, so fussy cutting, I've heard that it's better to hold the scissors at a 45-degree angle to the paper. Then you don't get as much pushing up of the paper, so you don't get this raised edge. So I try to remember to angle it at 45 degrees. And they said to turn the paper and not the scissors to do your cutting, which is, I find that one a little bit trickier. Okay, now, because I'm trying to control how closely I cut to the image, right? So I have not mastered fussy cutting yet, but they do say to use the paper to turn instead of trying to turn your scissors. But for me, I've been like kind of doing a combination of both as I learn and practice my fussy cutting. Go, and I can see it's a little bit uneven here, so I'm just going to trim it down to, there we go. All right, there's one little guy. I'm thinking that maybe oh, I think I know why that little face smudged. I think it's because I must have left a tiny bit of water on the stamp when I wiped it. I squeezed a little too hard, maybe? Don't know. And I don't know about you, but I always find that I end up gripping my scissors with like a death grip by the time I'm done, and I have to remind myself to loosen up so that it doesn't give me a cramp in my hand. All right. Oh, there's a tiny little corner there. There we go. Okay, so there's my two little peppers, and I need to create my sentiment, so let's put that aside. Let's get out my Stamparatus, and I'm going to get You Spice Up My Life. Here it is. There we go. And I need some black cardstock. So I like lining it up on the paper so that if my paper moves after I've already picked up my stamp in the spot that I want it, then I can fix it easily. Then I just line up the paper again. Okay. Should have put my magnets down first. There we go. All right, I think that looks straight. Now I need the Versamark ink when I'm doing embossing. So Versamark ink stays wet longer, and the embossing powder will stick to it. Oh, you know what I should do first is I should rub it with the embossing buddy. That will prevent static cling, and you won't get like extra pieces of little dots of white from the powder sticking to it. In places that you don't want it. Okay. I feel like I'm just going to ink it up one more time because I'm not sure. Oh yeah, I think it's okay. Sorry. I just want to make sure all the letters got inked up properly. So let me just move this out of the way. I'm just going to get an extra piece of paper. Where did I put it? I had one. And, oh, here we go. All right, so I just need like a scrap piece of paper to do this over. And I need my white embossing powder, which is from my scrapbooking days, like 20 years ago. I can't believe this stuff like still works. There's no problem with it. Okay, so I have a little bit left there, and I did not rub very hard, so I think maybe I should rub a little bit harder. But there we go. I have a brush that the embossing kit from Stampin' Up! Came with, and I just used that to brush off any little stray pieces that I didn't quite manage to prevent. Okay, that's fine. All right, just let me put that back into the jar. So I had to get my heat gun out again. I'm just gonna let it warm up a little bit before I I love how the white just stands out so much on the black. Just going to trim it right off the top there. Okay, let's put it up here where you can see it. There we go. And I'm just going to take the ends and I'm just going to cut it on a diagonal to make it look more interesting. And it's just by hand, so I'm eyeballing this. There we go. So a little bit fancier than just a regular rectangle. Okay, so this bow seems to want to have both of these loops on top. I can't seem to twist it, so I guess I'll leave it. I'm going to pull it over just a little bit more so that it doesn't get in the way of my peppers so much. Alright, so because I wanted to put the dimensionals back here, and I can't put the dimensional just right in the middle because it's going to sit on top of the bow and then it won't lie flat. So what I did was I actually took my dimensionals and I cut them in half so that I could put one above and one below. Now, let me just try to remember, did I use the big ones or the little ones? I'm thinking I used the little ones, so let's use the little ones. Okay, so I know that I want it to sit on the knot here, so I'm not going to be able to put a dimensional right there, so I'm going to concentrate putting my dimensionals along here and maybe one underneath here, so right there. So I'm just going to cut it in half. And one is going to go around here. There. I know this is pretty nitpicky, but I do like to have my sentiments lie flat when they are on the card. And I know that this has to sit on top of the string, and I don't want the dimensional to be half on the string and half on the paper, because that would make it lumpier looking. Okay, let me just double check here. So yeah, somewhere around there. And I think I want one like right here above the knot, so I'm going to put it directly on the paper. I'm going to move it down just a tad. There. Okay, so let's put that on and take off all the backings. I think some of them already came off. Okay. All right. So let me just position this. I'm just looking where my other one is underneath and center it. There. All right. So now my little guys, where did my little chili peppers go? Here they are. They're going to sit on top. So what I might do is I'm going to put this guy down, and I may just make another guy without the little smudge here on his mouth, and maybe I'll use the winky eye for that one too, because I do like that. So I'm just going to stick this guy down and put a dimensional on the back of this. And a little one down here. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, I think somewhere around here, like probably 2 of them. So yeah, that is the card today. So I'm going to fix that guy and I'm going to put on another one, but you guys get the idea. But it was actually a very simple card. It still took me an hour to make that one, but it's a really simple layout, very easy to make, and I think it looks so sweet. They're so cute. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you are joining in on the replay, I'd love to see you say hi and tell me if you like the card and where you're watching from, because I have a lot of new people join the group in the last couple months, so it's always nice to see who's joining in. Thanks so much for joining me today, and have a great day. See you later. See you next week.